Miles, we are back
What's
once
up, everybody?
again. How you doing, my man?
Hey, it's episode 3, and we first before we get into some football. Hey, my man, welcome to the 30 club, my friend. How does it feel? Turned 30 last Friday.
I did turn 30 last Friday. I did 30 the best way. I went and saw some great football I got some Thursday night and then I got some on Saturday. So my birthday was sandwiched between the two. It was a lot of fun, a fun weekend for sure.
That's the right way to celebrate. And let me tell you, I know I told you this last Thursday, but 30s are way better than the 20s. It's kind of like the 20s. You still feel like you're in your prime, but maybe you got a little bit more money in your pocket than you did when you're in your 20s. So
I'm
um,
hoping I'm hoping I touch a lot more money in my 30s than I
that's
did in
right.
my
That's right.
20s. That's for
That's not
sure.
why we're here tonight, though.
Not at all. Not at all. We're here to talk some football, aren't
That's right. Yes, sir.
we? Well, I mean, we can get started right away. Last week we had a big slate of games. The big one being Pueblo knocking off then ranked number 15, I want to say UTPB at their place down at Pueblo in the Thunder Bowl. Shushu Pueblo, they got out to a fast one in this one, and we actually have some highlights that we can show you guys from this game. Let me just 1 second. Boom. So as you can see, Reggie Retzlaff, he's just continuing this insane pace that he's on right now. He goes for a long score here to get things started. This was actually after UTPB had ran a trick play, their first offensive play, and threw a bomb and scored. But from that point on, it was kind of all Pueblo. We're gonna have an interception here by Midwestern transfer Peyton Shaw, getting a little freaky there. Look at this hurdle attempt there at the end. Had you pulled that off, that would have been amazing. Retzlaff once again just getting
Yeah,
behind DBs, getting them a little upset, I would imagine.
right. I'd like to see, as the year goes along, can he keep this up? But so far this season, my man's on fire.
Oh,
7 catches, 164, 2 touchdowns. Hope you picked him in the D2 fantasy pool
oh
to
yeah.
start the season. He's been awesome, but he's not the only guy getting it done there from Devin Larson. Lots of options.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Larson.
Howard Russell got it going this weekend in this game. Yeah, he had a big long run. Made it over the century mark. Pueblo they looked really really impressive in this one. I want to give a shout out to their defensive efforts. Defensive end Makia Scipio, he won RMAC Player of the Week, getting those 3.5 or 4 sacks, 4.5 TFLs. He had himself a day, to say the least. So Pueblo really impressive in their win. This win actually bumped them back into they were receiving votes. They're officially in the top 25 at number 25, making their debut. So big time stuff from Pueblo. I thought this could be the year they could take a step, and it looks like they're kind of on that trajectory. What would you say to that?
No doubt. Yeah. If you go back to our preview, we called them the dangerous team, the dark horse team, whatever you want to call it, that team that had a chance to maybe challenge Colorado School Mines in the league. And, all that's going to remain to be seen. But so far, so good for Coach V Hill and company down there in Pueblo. And I think everything that we thought they'd be in more, Devin Larson's been excellent. We knew he'd have a bunch of weapons. Like I said, it's not just Retzlaff. Zach Rakowski is certainly a weapon. And that running game, those running backs are good. That offensive line got going. So they're going to be multidimensional. It's not just going to be a passing game. And they got a lot of ballers on the defensive side too. So certainly Daniel Bone, that's your guy there. 9 tackles again. He's going to show up week after week after week. He's going to be a consistent player for them. Nushi 8 tackles with 1.5 for loss. Seidenberger's continued after a big freshman year. He did get ejected in the second half. So we'll talk about that later as we preview next week. But I think this team is super dangerous. They look really good. This is what CSU Pueblo certainly can be. They have a national championship within the last decade. And they're off to a really hot start. They certainly deserve to be in the top 25, no doubt about it. So a lot of football left to be played, Antonio. But so far, so good for Coach V Hill.
Yeah, big time win over the reigning LSE champs. We're gonna move along though to our next game, we got some more video. I think you're pretty familiar with this. I wish I had your call for this, man. But mine's got their season started this weekend with a big resounding win over West Texas A&M. Landon Walker had it going, to say the least. We got some great video here thanks to Derek Lamb, the basketball player, retro freshman, I believe.
Yeah.
He gave us some good stuff. But as you can see, mine's early in this game, I think West Texas was competing. As you could see, this is a big catch here or Will Drogosh, but Mines imposed their will as this game went on.
Yeah, I thought mines. I think our friend the RMAC Insider, the anonymous RMAC Insider, I thought he said it well that mines didn't answer questions. They just they were who we thought they would be, right? I was impressed. I thought it was a workman-like 4-touchdown victory, right? I know you said they wouldn't cover, and they came within a half a point, a missed extra point. In fact, of covering there at 28 and a half. But look, I thought they were very much what we expected, right? I think Evan Foster, you see the stat line there, 20 out of 30, 269, 2 touchdowns. And you were there, right? This is one of the rare east-west facing stadiums in the country. That's why almost every single game there is at noon. And there were a couple big drops early in the game because of the sun. They were staring right into that western facing sunset. And so really Evan was even more efficient than that. So quarterback check, right? And then there weren't a whole lot of other question marks, right? We knew what the skill positions would look like with Landon Walker. Landon Walker did his thing there. Look at the stat line. 15 carries, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was a horse. Max McLeod. Look, Max did that in 20 minutes of football. Right? And so we'll talk about that. I'll give you, kind of an injury update there for Max McLeod, a couple other guys there for mines. But Max, I was texting with him after the game. It felt like a sleepy, like an easy 7 for 130. Am I wrong about that, by the way?
It didn't even seem like he was really going just yet.
Right.
Like he was
So,
just warming up.
Max McLeod is what he is. They didn't even really get what I think we all know they're going to get from Flynn Sheely and Nick Stone and a couple of those other guys this year. So certainly, yeah, I think they were exactly who we thought they would be. They dominated this football game. All credit to West Texas A&M. That's a very competitive team coming out of the LSC. They weren't going to be a pushover, right? This wasn't going to be 63-0 or anything like that. But I thought Mines really didn't even put the foot on the gas and won this thing by 4 scores.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, look, I want to give a shout out to Joel Diaz on the back end. He was all over the place making plays on the back end, making plays in the backfield. Only 3 tackles, but 3 really impactful ones. I remember that TFL where he got to the quarterback in the backfield. Just want to give him a shout out. He was balling out there. And then can you pronounce that last name?
Caggiano, yeah, the transfer from South Dakota.
He is just he pops. He pops off it. Like when you see him playing, he's just moving at a different speed. You don't really see, interior defensive linemen that can just move like that. I really like his game, and it showed in his first outing for mine. So really impressed with the Ore Diggers. I mean, I'm not surprised at all. So
no, like I said, I think this was a workman-like 28-point win. This is kind of like Bama early season. They're not trying to show you how good they can be by scoring as many points as possible. They wanted to get a dub. They played a lot of backups, got in the game, and mostly got out of there healthy. Let's talk about Max McLeod real quick. Did come out of the game, seemed fine post-game. Got to talk to him after the game, and he seemed like Max was not concussed, did have a sore neck. He will be kind of questionable, I think, this week, whether or not they need him. They didn't need him in the second half. They said he could have played. And I don't think he was ever out on the field. Talked to a couple of players post-game, said that he kind of just knew he got hit big, right, up high. The player was ejected for West Texas A&M on a targeting call, and just laid there for a second. and let the medical staff come do their thing. So super sore neck for Max, but he should still have no problem being Max McCloud, I think, the rest of the year. And one of the sneaky things about Max is whether he's healthy or not, it doesn't really seem to matter. He's Max McCloud every week. So, Joel Diaz also got banged up, but I think they got out of that game healthy. We saw who they were. And to your point there with Don Caggiano, 1 tackle, 1 sack. Okay, the stat line isn't jumping out. None of those defensive linemen or front 7 guys, the stat line is going to jump out. But I thought the defensive line was really impressive. And shout out to Tim Flint, best SID in the business. He told me, Miles, you're going to love watching Don Caggiano. And to your point, you got a good eye. He's a special player there in the front 7 for them. They got waves of defensive linemen. And, they look really, really good week 1. Like I said, I think kind of as expected, nothing really jumped out to me that I was surprised by in week 1.
Just to kind of ponder on this, do you think it's a little bit how do you think the guys feel not starting like the way they've started the last couple of years with the Grand Valley? Like, do you think this was maybe smart for them to not maybe start with one of the top 5 teams in the nation to give this team a little bit of time to grow?
I think unintentionally that might be exactly what you're talking about. I think that might be the truth. I don't think this team has any fear though of opponents. Obviously, I'm wearing the Ordigger hat here, so I'm a homer. I'm going to be a homer all year. You guys can call me out for that. That's fine. But no, I think they want to play top talent. I think the problem was getting that top talent scheduled because as we've all seen, the issue for this team isn't making it to the playoffs or winning the RMAC, or those aren't their goals. They want to win bigger, and so they do want to test themselves against the best teams in the country. So I think it's kind of maybe a happy accident that this team will be able to kind of get out of the gate and get feeling good about themselves. And a player like Evan Foster, if John Matoka struggled against Grand Valley, well, they knew what they had in John Matoka, right? So they weren't worried about that. But I think it will be kind of a good thing to get Evan Foster started off to a good start, and hopefully that'll be the case again next week. I do have to give a quick shout out before we move on from mines here to our guy Josh Wojciechowicz, the deep snapper, who's got a very good chance to be a professional, by the way. A lot of NFL scouts out looking at Woj all week. But our guy Blake Dowd with the 79-yard punt. Gosh. I mean, Antonio, I think that thing ended up getting something like 20 million views across a bunch of social media platforms. CBS, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, all those entities running with that Pat McAfee as well. And look cool to get my voice out there a little bit more as well. But Blake Dowd is the best to do it in the country. He showed that last week, 2 punts inside the 1 and one that went 79 yards. It's awfully fun. That's quite a luxury for them at the punter position.
Oh, yeah. He probably made himself some dollars this week.
He just might have. Yeah. Both those guys might go pro.
Oh, yeah. We're going to move along to our next game. We got some more video thanks to the amazing Amelia Lucasen up at Western Colorado. They got things started off in the new Mountaineer Bowl, and this is the first drive. Hayden Stewart, Mason transfer, getting the turnover. Kind of unforced error on Midwestern's part, but Western capitalized. They're going to need to score with Braden Hogan. I think Western, aside from Drew Nash, and they had another big run later in the game, but I think they struggled a little bit to run the ball. But I was really impressed with Drew Nash's ability, in spite of that, to just operate the offense. Like, I think last week we talked about wanting to see if Drew Nash could really take another step, and I think he kind of showed that this weekend, as you see in these highlights. He was doing his thing, both running and passing. We got Cole Ritters right here. That spin
nasty work here on that run.
Yeah,
yeah. Vicious,
he's going crazy.
Stiff arm spin move combo. That was big time.
Oh yeah. And then we got Meisner here. Meisner, he was a big guy. They were expecting a big year out of him last year, playing kind of that slot role, and he was out. But Western, they win, but it was closer than maybe they would have liked it. But they did get the dub. They start their year 1-0. What are some of your takeaways from what you saw and some of the things you're seeing from Western?
Yeah, I don't think I'm terribly surprised by anything we've seen from Western so far. They're in week 1. Nasty defense. Look at that one. Gave up 9 points in the second half. That's going to be one of their strengths. Very opportunistic defense. How about Kendall Lightfoot with the sack and the pick six?
Oh my God.
Gorgeous, smooth pick six from
my
Kendall
gosh.
Lightfoot, who's a stud there in the middle for them. And then, look, I mean, you're right. We said this in the preview. We said it last week. Drew Nash, I mean, the guy's got some swagger. The guy, he's a baller, okay? He can do a little bit of everything. Also, by the way, he kind of low-key, he's a thick guy. He is not a small, thin man back there at quarterback. So, last year with Davon Butler, he was deferring a lot more. It was a little bit more, conservative. This year, I think they're going to unleash Drew Nash. He's fast. He's accurate. He's going to make a lot of plays for them. I would love to see their running game, to your point, get going outside of Drew Nash and kind of, find that alpha dog in the backfield. But looks like they're going to be salty on defense. Looks like Drew Nash is going to make a lot of plays on offense. Is this team a top 15 team in the country? Are they that good? I'm still kind of not sold. I'm curious to see, what they are as the season goes along. But, to me, kind of what I expected them to be, they're a really, really good football team. I just also enjoy watching Drew Nash play the quarterback position. He's entertaining.
Oh yeah, he's a lot of fun to play. I echo that, and I just love watching their defense play. Coach Howard, just the defense he runs, it's so in your face. Like, I'd hate to be a quarterback playing against Western, looking at that front. But I was really impressed with they caused quite a few turnovers. Like Kendall Lightfoot had his pick six. Case Stew, as you saw in that video, he recovered a fumble. There was another linebacker, one of their redshirt freshmen, that had an interception. So the defense is back like it never left. And Drew Nash looks like he is really the real deal. I imagine their offensive line will get better as the season goes too, as far as the running game goes. It was week one. There's some new guys in that lineup. So I imagine they probably didn't want it to be as close as it was, but a win is a win. You much rather teach from a win than a loss. So Western starts 1-0, and I think they're going to be – I don't think they're going anywhere. As much as I've said I think Pueblo is a team to really challenge minds, I think Western's going to have something to say about that as the season goes along.
And final thought here, I'm curious to see what the ceiling of this team is, but I think the floor of this team is at least the third best team in the league and, a top 25 team in the country.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited. Like I said, I just love that we have games now because we get to watch it all play out, dude. So, speaking of games playing out, we had another team that made their debut. We had Black Hills, and we gotta thank Andrew Lynn from KOTA for the video. This is some great stuff. Their transfer quarterback Luke Doobie, he looks like the real deal to me. This guy, his ability to move in and out of the pocket, but still keep his eyes downfield. He just looks, I haven't seen him in person yet, but just watching this video, he looks really, really good to me. So I think Black Hills might have something on offense with this QB, and I expect their defense to come to play. But look at this. You see him step up in the pocket, get his eyes back down. That was really, really pretty. We're gonna see this touchdown play here. Like, look at him manipulate the defense. Oh, there goes my guy. He was really, really impressive. I'm excited to watch this guy. I'm excited to watch him play and see Black Hills. They were 7-4. The year before last, and then 6-5. I was a little disappointed in 6-5 last year, but after seeing them in week one, just seeing that quarterback play, it means so much to me. For me and what I think wins football games, I'm super excited about Black Hills and what they might be this year. What do you think seeing that for the first time?
Well, hate to start with a negative here. I think that certainly they got to get their running game going. That football game ended up with -4 net rushing yards. You're not going to see that very often, even in college football, where they count the sacks against rushing yards. And look, Luke Doobie was not sacked in the game, and they ended up with -1 rushing yards. So sometimes that's a little bit misleading. You rush it for 75, but your quarterback gets sacked 6 times. So, so obviously they got to get that going. But would I rather have a competent quarterback and a running game that needs improvement? Yeah, I'd rather have a competent quarterback for sure. And so Luke Doobie looked the part. He looks like he can play. I would imagine they're going to scheme up a little bit better of a running game as things goes on. And then, this defense is stout. We knew that coming in to this year. They brought back a lot of players there. They described themselves in the offseason as heavy, stout, solid on defense. They knew that was going to be the identity of their football team. Are they going to blow a lot of people out 50 to 35? Probably not. This is going to be probably a pretty indicative score of what type of football team they're going to have. And tell me if you think I'm wrong there. But 24 to 14, probably a score we're going to see more often. From this team. Certainly, and I want to make sure I get his name right as the season goes along. By the time I have them, we'll make sure we get it right. TJ Chukwura was a big play threat last year. 2 catches, 59 yards the other day. He continues to be a big play threat. So if their offense can do enough and that running game can get on pace, once again, they held, by the way, Southwest Baptist to -3 rushing yards in the game. So you outrushed your opponent -1 to -3. But like I said, really good quarterback play, receivers that can keep them, scoring points throughout games, and then a defense that's going to keep them in a lot of football games. So I would expect them to have, more of like a 7-8 win type of season at this point. I think we're on the same page there that last year 6-5 was ultimately disappointing for them based on the type of team they have. And love their defense. Love those Quinones boys on the back end.
Oh yeah.
24-14. I think that's pretty indicative of the type of football team they got.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see Luke Doobie just continue to work. The stuff that I did see, his ability to just move around in the pocket and not necessarily moving around just to run but just to moving around to manipulate the defense and let his guys get open. I was really excited watching that guy play. So
we'll find out a lot more about them, I think, here in a week. We'll talk about that.
Oh yeah. So moving along, we had, this was one of the craziest games you will see. I didn't have enough room on the graphic to include how many overtimes there were. This game ended up going to 4 overtimes. At one point, this game was happening on Thursday night. I was in person down at the Mines game. So I had this on my phone, and then at halftime as I'm running up, I'm checking it out. When I first looked, I wouldn't say South Dakota was up 21-7. And then when I looked again, I seen the tail end of maybe the second overtime, but just a wild game. I think Jake Martinelli really showed out though. But look at that stat line: 443 yards, 5 touchdowns, the 1 INT. But hey, when you throw the ball 61 times, giving it away once is kind of, that's probably to be expected. But a tough loss for the Hard Rockers. They gave up another 475 yards through the air, which is just astounding. Through 2 games, their pass defense is almost giving up 1,000 yards. So they definitely got some things they need to work on. But I think there's some positives to take out of it. Their offense really got going in this one.
No doubt. Yeah, you were the most popular guy in the press box, given that you were the one willing to pay whatever it costs you to access that Flow Sports broadcast. So, but you hate to lose a game that you go into the fourth quarter up by 14 in, and they fought hard in this one. Now 0-2, so that's definitely disappointing for the folks up there in South Dakota. After the type of season they had last year. But like you said, I think we knew Jake Martinelli. While Jaden Johansson was a big loss, Martinelli's a playmaker as well, and certainly in the category for one of those top tier quarterbacks in the league. But definitely this has got to be disappointing to expend the amount of effort. You know better than I do as an actual football player. I'm more of a Madden or an NCAA 25 type of football player. But to expend that amount of energy and then come off the field 0-2 has got to be a bummer for the boys from South Dakota Mines. But Martinelli definitely showing that he's going to keep him in a lot of football games.
I want to give a shout out to some guys on Michigan Tech. My old DB's coach, Coach Donnelly, coached up at Michigan Tech. So we talked a little bit after this game, and I'm real happy for him and what he has going on. But I also want to shout out before we leave this game, just a couple hard rockers. Mason Galbraith, 10 receptions, 160 yards, 1 TD. That looks very Ben Nolan-esque when you just look at it real quick.
Yep, sure does.
And then Hunter Newsome on the defensive side. He's just he's a problem. He's a problem just in the front seven. He just lives in the backfield. So just want to shout them out. Rough game for those guys, but hopefully they can get back on track next week.
I'm going to talk about a couple more Arvada area kids here in this Shattering State game, but Caleb Tischler, a big game as well, went to Ralston Valley. So I'm here in Arvada, Colorado right now as we speak, right next to Golden, and a lot of kids balling out here for Shattering as well.
Well, hey, speak to it. You see Jake Marshall there? Jake Marshall and Shattering get off the snide, get their
Big
first
Marshall.
Yeah, you are the guy that would know. But him and the Eagles, they get their first dub of the season. It wasn't an easy dub. It was actually pretty hard fought. But they do it. Freshman Wyatt Sprague from Holyoke, Colorado.
Small town school, yeah, you bet. Holyoke.
Small town guy comes in and gets the job done. And that's not the prettiest stat line, but he threw the de facto touchdown to go up. And he came in and made some plays, made some throws. I think shattering their defense, once again kind of flexed its muscle. And maybe not the prettiest win, but a win nonetheless. You can never be mad about winning. What do you think, Miles?
Yeah, let's keep in mind, didn't have QB DJ Ralph. Came back and won this thing, shut out in the first half. Really rode Jake Marshall, who I said at the beginning of the year, that kid's capable physically of being a bell cow, Chatfield High School graduate. Shout out Reed Hinkle as well, Arvada West, 12 tackles, 1 for loss. We knew their defense was going to be stout. So once again, this is, I think, kind of relatively what we expected, maybe kind of an extreme version here at 17-10. You might see more games like 28-17. But it's a little bit tough to evaluate the offense with, the freshman Wyatt Sprague playing, and without DJ Ralph. So hopefully they can get that quarterback position healthy, can be a little bit more explosive on the offensive end, but their defense is going to keep them in a lot of football games here. And you shouldn't win too often in college football when you score just 17 points. But shout out to that Shattering defense getting it done.
Oh yeah, Dax Girardi on the back end. I want to say he had the game-sealing INT. They're going to get a bye week, so Wyatt's going to have some time to, get more acclimated in the offense, tighten some things up. So I'll be excited to see them. Well, I want to say their next outing is against you guys, which is no fun, but hey, we'll be excited to watch them. But looking along at next week's slate of games, we got a big slate. We start with Upper Iowa and South Dakota Mines. There's a ton of games. We're going to look at a couple of the bigger ones. Just looking at this, what stands out to you?
Certainly, this is a big slate here for the RMAC. And, I think we're going to find out a good amount about some of these football teams here this week. So certainly Black Hill State playing a D1 up there in Minnesota. That's a big game for them. They can come away with a win there. You're looking at that team making that jump, right? We talked with Whit in week 1 about who's the teams that can make that jump up. We both liked Black Hill State kind of in that category as a sleeper in the league. So certainly keeping an eye on that one. Central Washington against Colorado Mesa. I'm sure you're going to have an eye on that football game. We're all excited to see, of course, the big game of the week, Arizona Christian University at Fort Lewis. So that's definitely the marquee. But Grand Valley State against CSU Pueblo. We're going to find out about CSU Pueblo. Like I said, so far so good. A lot of football left to be played, right? The CSU Pueblo can come out and play well against Grand Valley. Look out.
Let's talk about that one a little bit more. CSU Pueblo, newly minted and ranked, taking on number 4 Grand Valley State, coming down from Michigan. This is going to be their game last year was fireworks. Grand Valley won, I want to say it was 57-49 in double OT, if I'm not mistaken. Back and forth game. I want to say Grand Valley got out to a big lead. Pueblo fought back. Pueblo showed a lot of fight in that game last year. Pueblo seems to have a whole new energy this year. I'm gonna be really excited to see this. This is a huge matchup. Is this the biggest matchup across the board in D2 this week, possibly?
Ooh, I can't answer the question about D2. It's definitely a big matchup, certainly in the RMAC. It's the number one matchup in the RMAC for sure. Western Colorado, West Texas A&M in another game. I'm very curious to see how that one plays out. Yeah, this one last year was certainly exciting. And you look at what these two teams have done in their first couple of weeks. These are really good football teams, really good offenses. What did you say the score was last week off the top of your head, or last year?
I want to say it was 57-49 Grand Valley.
He's definitely looking at that right in front of that one off the top of his head, but it was 57-49 into overtime. So, but to your point, like CSU Pueblo seems to have their swagger back, right?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit different energy.
It's going to be interesting. Look at the total offense numbers are both ridiculous. Look at Grand Valley's rushing offense. I want to say they had three guys that went over 100 yards and had a touchdown last week. How does Pueblo stand up to that? UTPB, Corey Harris, he's he's an all-conference LSC rusher, but I think UTPB is more known for, lighting it up through the air. This one's going to be Pueblo. You got to bring your lunch pail, and we're going to see how tough you are this week. It's the kind of game I imagine it's going to be like snot-nosed, drag-out fight kind of a game.
Could be 57-49 into overtimes again.
It could. It very well could be. I think Pueblo has the horses on offense to challenge Grand Valley. I don't think that Pueblo is going to struggle. I think like Reggie Retzlaff is for real.
There's no doubt. I don't think Pueblo is going to be, they're not going to be a pushover in any game against anybody this year. What would you guess? What would be the over under in this game on total points?
I don't think it's going to get. I think Pueblo's defense is a lot better. I think they've improved since last year, so I don't think it's going to get as crazy. I'd say over 60, but under 70.
I would put it. I'd say that's fair.
But
this could be a 36-34, type of game. So
that's what I'm thinking.
Really interested to see, as much as we think we know about football, as I've said the first couple of weeks, we really don't know that much in the first couple of weeks. I think we have a pretty good idea, but this one will be a good measuring stick for just how good CSU Pueblo is here in first couple of years under Coach Vijo.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be down there at that one. I'm super excited. I want to give a shout out to before we leave Pueblo one time, the guy that we got our video from this week from Pueblo, my guy Oli, working up there at CSU Pueblo. He's amazing. Do you follow him on social? Do you see all their cool stuff they do on social medias? All their witty stuff, like their jersey reveals last year was like maddening stuff. The guy that does that, shout out to you, Oli.
Yeah, they do a great job.
You're amazing, my man. Next big game, number 10, Central Washington, making the trip to Grand Junction, or as I used to call it back in the day, Grand Function. This is a big game. We got the Mavs coming off a huge win to start their season, getting a dub over LSU foe in Kingsville a couple weeks ago. Central Washington, they come in after taking a little lump on their chin to USD and your guys' old coach Brandon Moore.
Yeah,
Brandon Moore.
Let's go Toreros. Great guy, by the way, Brandon Moore. I got married a couple weeks ago. He sent me a text. He's an awesome coach. Awesome guy.
Hell yeah. I got Central Washington's going to come in and, a little salty. Wanting to, that obviously USD's a Division I
So this loss, take it with a little bit of grain of salt. But I think Central Washington will come out looking to, really make a stamp and let everybody know, like, hey, our high ranking coming into this year, it's not just based on last year's playoff run. We are that team that everybody thinks that we can and should be. So Mesa, on the other end, how do they fare? They already knocked off one big LSU team. Can they do it again on their home field? I'm super excited for this one. What are some things you think about when you think about this game and what it might end up turning out like, Miles?
Well, I'm curious. I'm pulling up right now. What is the spread according to our RMAC pick'em for this game? I don't even know yet. Let's take a look. They've got. Let's see. We've got Colorado Mesa plus 4.5, and I think that's probably fair. Based on what we saw from Mesa in week 1. This will be a really interesting game. I'm going to try not to overreact too much either way. How good is Central Washington? How good is Colorado Mesa? I'm curious to see if Central Washington, did they just get hot at the end of last year, or really are they that good? I don't know. I don't think we know that much about just how good Mesa is yet either. But this should be a fun football game to watch and kind of to compare. They don't belong. I wish there was more Division II football. We all do on the West Coast, certainly. So it'll be fun to have Central Washington in the LSC, even though they don't belong in that league. There should be more football up in that region. That's a whole other conversation. But yeah, this will be kind of another measuring stick for the league as we go along through the year. It'll be interesting to go back and look at this one. I kind of like the line. I guess I'll take Central Washington in a close one. Certainly Tanner Folk, interesting character there. One of the first defensive back in the Harlan Hill finalists in 25 years. So you got to give him some love there. It takes a little bit more than a note from mom to get 10 interceptions plus in a season. So he's certainly always an interesting player to watch.
I had 6
looking forward to seeing
career.
What's that?
I had 6 for my whole career.
And you were pretty good, right?
Yeah. A couple things I want to mention before we let this one go. Things to watch in this game. Mesa's rushing offense, 80 yards. I think the running back Taylor, the transfer from Idaho State, I think he showed well in that first game. If you watched it as it went on, he started kind of imposing his will. But it'll be interesting to see him up against Central Washington's defense. Like, they only allowed 57 yards rushing to USD. I'm not sure if USD is a major spread or anything like that, but that's a pretty impressive number. So I like to see that chess matchup. And then if there's 2 things I'll say definitively already this early in the season. I know Central Washington, after seeing them 2 times, I believe that defense, they're good. I don't know how Volk does it, how he's always in the right place, but that defense as a whole plays well. I think they have good DBs as well. They have a really good linebacker, Brett McCullough. He's really good as well. So I think they have a great defense, and I'm going to plant my fork right now. Mesa's defense is for real. So I think this is going to be a really close, tight game. I think if you like defensive football, tune into this one this week. But I'll move us along. Hey, we're here. What give us the layout for this game, Miles?
Yeah, Washburn only scored 14 points last week. They were shut out in, what was it, the first half? They were shut out in the first half. You're going to have to score a lot more than 14 points to beat this Colorado School of Mines team, all the weapons they have. Whether Max McLeod plays or not, they're very, very deep at wide receiver. So let's see where we got on the pick'em this week. They've got the spread sitting at let's find it here. Colorado School of Mines. And I can't find it right now. Oh, minus 13.5. I would take Mines to cover. Certainly. Yeah, we already talked about them. I think they are who we thought they were. They're going to be they're going to be a comprehensive, really good football team across the board. I don't know that they have any weaknesses. The quarterback position's excellent. The skill positions are excellent. They're going to score a lot of points. They're going to be extremely disruptive on defense. They're going to stop the run which is something that Washburn wants to do. It is not easy to run against this Colorado School Mines football team. So, yeah, give me the Ore Diggers large on the road. Yeah.
Do you know how to pronounce the Washburn logo? They're the Washburn Ichibots?
I do not. I can't say that I do. Yeah.
Ichibots? Ichibots? What is an Ichibot?
It's an Ichabod. Let's find this out.
Ichabod? Ichabod? What is that?
We're going to have an on-air production meeting here. And what'd you do for your 30th birthday, my friend?
What'd you say there?
What'd you do for your 30th birthday?
Nothing special. Me and one of my friends got some drinks down in Denver, and yeah, went and saw my mom. I thought it was really cool. I thought it would be really cool for my mom to see me like, hey, dude, 30 years later, look at your kid. So I went and saw my mom, and she was real happy about it.
Apparently, in Ichabod, and if I'm not mistaken, is a Bible reference here. So religious university, perhaps there, and they're going to need to send some prayers up.
Well, let's see. We got a couple more games. West, this is the one that I think this is one that's your sleeper game of the week in the conference.
No doubt.
Tell us what.
Well, certainly, yeah. We saw West Texas A&M play against Mines. We know they're not a pushover. We know that's a good football team. Western Colorado, I'll go back to our opener. I'm surprised, quite frankly. I guess not when you really think about who's doing the voting and whatnot, that they received, 3 first place votes. Are they that good of a team? Were they able to make up that type of gap against Colorado School of Mines? I don't know. And obviously, we can't go transitive property with every single game. But this will definitely be one. That's all we can do, right? At this point in the season is look at those similar scores. So love to see how West Texas A&M fares against Western Colorado. And, they're going to have to, that defense is definitely going to be tested by Fats Johnson. I mean, he is a ridiculously good athlete at quarterback, like as good as you're going to see at the Division II level in terms of pure athleticism. And so, he will definitely test your offense. And this will be an interesting matchup to kind of see where the two conferences match up and how these two teams match up.
Just a heads up, I want to apologize for this now. I obviously didn't update our West Texas A&M graph.
That's okay. I was about to say I don't remember
after
those stats, sir.
This was their stats heading into the Mines game. That was my bad. I might have messed up.
Got to fire our producer. Yeah. No, they got Western Colorado at -6 for this game, -5.5. I think that's fair. I think this is an upper echelon team in the RMAC versus probably a mid-tier team in the LSC.
I think
it'll be fun to watch. Kind of the same way about Pueblo and their game. I'm just and Mesa and their game. I'm just interested to see how it plays out. I don't have the strongest opinions at this point. Just kind of curious to see how each of these teams look, and that West Texas A&M defense is salty as well. So,
oh yeah, I'm excited to just see. I'm excited to see that quarterback Johnson and how Coach Auer and that Western defense, just how they decide to try to disrupt him. That's going to be a big chess match in that game because he's athletic, he can escape, but he can swing it a little bit as me and you saw in person last week. So
no doubt.
I'm super excited to see him just go up against the challenge that defense is. That's going to be a fun watch, if nothing more. Western won the game last year, so I would actually lean towards Western. I'd pick Western to win it close.
Agreed.
So yeah. Moving along to our last game that we're gonna check out before we call it on this one. Black Hills is heading up to play D1 St. Thomas. The Tommies. The Tommies are 0-2, but they are an FCS level school, so you can imagine they're gonna have some probably a little bigger guys in the trenches and maybe some really nice skill players. But Black Hills played them close last year. I think Black Hills was competitive when they went up there last year. So I'm excited to see what Black Hills can do. And Like if you guys couldn't tell already, I got my little man crush on their quarterback. He can sling it. I love the way he plays. So I'm giving Black Hills a chance in this one actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Black Hills, when you schedule a D1 on the road, you don't expect to go get a victory, right, necessarily, but can they keep it close? Can they make this a fourth quarter game? I think if you do, that's a victory for Black Hills, and that'll be an indication they're going to be feisty at worst, right, in the league. So, yeah, would love to see their running game get going. I'm sure Sunday morning, Saturday night, Saturday afternoon, perhaps they said, okay, we got to fix some things there. We cannot end the game with no sacks and -1 rushing yards. But yeah, I'd love to see them keep it close. We got the line here at 13.5. And I think if they can keep it within that, that's a, there's no moral victories in this sport, but for the talking heads of the world, yeah, we can call it a moral victory. And I would say that would be the case for Black Hills if they can keep it close.
I think they should be able to do it just because the experience of playing them last year, and for the most part, their defensive front returned. And yeah, their defensive front, as you can see, their defensive front is pretty stout itself, that -3 rushing yards. So I think that they'll have the dogs up front to compete, and I think they'll cover that. I think they'll keep it within 2 scores. So excited for that one. There were a couple other games that we didn't break down, but we are also excited to watch. We're just waiting to see if Fort Lewis could get that elusive victory. Adams State is taking on who does Adams have this?
Adams State is playing UTPB. Good luck, Adams State, on that.
That's no fun for them. That's probably not going to go too well because UTPB is going to be pissed off after losing pretty resoundingly. That's not going to be any fun.
Got the line at 31.5 on that one. That's a pretty big spread.
They'll probably cover that.
But how about this? Once again, this is a Fort Lewis podcast. And, Fort Lewis, Arizona Christian University, 2 wins last year. It was a relatively competitive game last year for Fort Lewis. One of these days we're going to be right. I'm taking the Skyhawks, baby. Let's go.
I think I'm going to go with the Skyhawks too. We're not in conference play. You know what? I'm going to roll the dice. So I'm going to go with the Skyhawks too.
Fighting Johnny Cox's.
Hey, I love Coach Cox. I'm actually really excited too for the Highlands is taking on, I want to say, Western New Mexico.
Yeah.
And, that first Highlands game got away from them, but I kind of had called that in the preview. Like as soon as you guys told me they were back to doing the triple ops, I was like, that's going to be rough. But then playing a traditional offense, I think Highlands and Joey Cave might be more competitive than people think. I think that game might be a little bit closer than people think.
Now, these are made up. These are not the Vegas spread makers, but we got that one at 3.5 with the West New Mexico Highlands as the underdog in that one. But if it's a push, we're gonna root for the RMAC. So yeah.
Well, hey, are you going along down to Kansas? It's in Topeka, Kansas?
I will not. I will say though that is near Evan Foster's hometown of Olathe, Kansas. So he's kind of excited to be back at home. I will probably, this is one of my last weekends. Shout out my cat Rocky back here, now named after the Colorado Rockies. But this will be one of my last weekends here in Colorado where I can convince the wife to go backpacking with me. So I will be I'll be out on the trail enjoying some Colorado nature, and then we'll catch up on the football when I get back.
Heck yeah. Well, hey man, another great show. Before we get out of here, before we leave, I just want to say shout out to the late great James Earl Jones one time. And had to rock out with the Star Wars and the Vader tonight. So
do you have a favorite James Earl Jones movie?
Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back. I'll go Sandlot.
As a kid, he used to scare me in that. Like,
sure.
Scary old man. Like, it was so cool. I remember as a kid when I finally made the connection, like, that's Darth Vader.
Yeah.
No duh. He has that same energy in the Sandlot, kind of. But I just wanted to shout him out and show him some real love. We lost a good one. But it was a great show. I'm looking forward to next week, and we'll see how these games play out. We'll see who's right and who's wrong.
That's what it's all about, is proving who's better than who, right? That's why we're here.
I'm a competitive guy myself. What can I say? Well,
Well,
that's
thanks,
all I got.
Antonio. We'll enjoy some football again this week and be back at it next week.
Awesome. I'll see you guys. We'll see you guys later and have fun watching football this week. Bye bye.
Yes, sir.